All right, hello. This is Cubby here. I am going to talk about Surface 2 Agent 46 since I just got it this morning. So, a little bit of background on the trip to get here. I originally had heard about Arlene's um, like before I even joined the community and thought it was pretty crazy. And then, uh, yeah, thought it was like really out of my reach. And then, like, soon after I joined, at some point, Khakis like told me, he was like giving me suggestions for things I could run. He said, if you want to do Arlene's, you can look into uh, running Surface 2. So, but again, I thought that was pretty scary. So I didn't really play Surface 2 Agent that much. So at some point, someone, it might have been Colin actually, got 47, and him and we like joined around the same time. So I saw him get it, and it might have actually been during League of 2024. So I saw that happen and decided, like, hey, I actually might be able to do this because um, him and I were similar skill levels. So looked into it, looked into how to even do the throw. I forget which guide I looked at. I think I'll just link it in the description. Watched a guide and learned how to do the throw. So to start off, I would watch that video, and I would also watch Woda's tutorial for the lines. And sorry, drew a blank there. Yeah, I would learn how to do the throw, and then I would practice doing the throw in put on sheets, put on invisible, and go into Surface 1 and Surface 2 and do the throws. And you can put slow animation on because the guards will start to just like spawn and run around you and mess you up. Um, so I would go there, go into practice, and just practice doing the throw at first, just not even in the right position. Just do the throw until you feel like you can do like for me, I'm pretty impatient, so I as soon as I could get it like 20% of the time, I was ready to just do runs. So, if you want to get more consistent first, you can. Or if you would rather just jump into it, you can also do that. So, yeah. So, I figured we could look at my run and some other runs and talk about it. Yeah. So, I have my run up on the screen, which I just got, which is pretty it's pretty surreal. So, um, yeah, I don't think music matters. I usually just play with it off. Just yeah, I don't think it matters. Um, I play on wide, and from what I see, most people play on wide. Maybe people play on full as well. I don't think. I'm not sure if that would be bad. I think most people play on wide though. On 1.2. Yeah, and so some runs cut both cutscenes immediately, what I would do is I like cutting the first one like whenever uh cut the first one, and then I like to watch the second one. Some people will cut the second one too. And the reason I don't cut the second one is I like to get my bearings to line up my first line. And it's kind of hard to do that when you cut the second cinema because you're you're essentially setting your line based on like off feel and like the fade in, the darkness of the fade in. So you really have to do it off feel. Whereas if you do it this way, I feel like you get a better understanding of how far you need to turn. So I'm holding. This is kind of a weird image. So I'm holding right strafe here, and immediately I'm also holding left. So on the stick. So I'm setting my line immediately, and you'll get a feel for how long you need to hold the stick for after you gain control of Bond. Some people immediately start looking down. What I like to do is set my line first, then look down. Obviously, I think looking down immediately and having the best line would be optimal, but I was opting for consistency here. So set the line, then I'm gonna look down. I like switching to mine immediately. So the line for me for wide was you want to have a little bit of a gap next to the trees on your screen, because if you set it for like you barely or like there's only trees on your screen, you end up running into the wall, and if there's a lot of space, you end up not having an optimal line. So like this kind of line for me was good. So we're gonna do sharp turns against the wall. It's 4 turns. These, I have a patch, a practice patch, whatever you want to call it, for splits, and really doing. Obviously, you don't want to like fuck these turns up, but uh, this is definitely not where you're going to like make or break your run. Like make sure they're decent enough, but you lose like very little if you don't do these like perfectly. Like some runs are really perfect, but others are like pretty chill about it, and you still get 46. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. These turns, just like do them, still like try and do them good enough. But like if you don't do them optimally, you don't have to like restart your run or anything. This turn's kind of weird because you don't turn fully with it because it this wall goes this way and then it cuts back just a little bit. So yeah, you should probably look at some runs on how people do it. But yeah, let me back up. Like that's fine. You want to be parallel with this wall. And you're going to keep your line. So you're coming to this crossroads here, and really the mark you're looking for is this like dot on the ground. So this ridge here, there's 2 lines that meet at a point, and this is the point right here. So you can understand where your line is based on this dot here. So if this dot is more on the left of your screen, then you're more to the right of the hut, and vice versa. So if you see this dot like over here, then you're gonna be like right near, like right up on the hut. But on in Wood's tutorial, he said like being to the right of the dot is okay, and I found that to be true. So you're going next to the hut. There's this little line here. It's like a parallel. You want to be pretty much going like parallel to this line. The marker, or like the visual indicator for this point, is having this mine like up against this corner, but I don't think it's like, you don't need to be perfect here, because like obviously I'm like way, well, I guess I'm not that far, but like I'm to the right of it and I'm fine. But my run goes a bit more to the right than like a lot of the runs. So if you want to copy like most of the runs, I think having this, your mine on this corner is probably what most people do. So I'm probably looking up a bit earlier than normally, but essentially the way this works is where you want to stand is so there's like a little ditch here. It bumps up and into another little ditch. So these lines go to a point here, and you kind of go into this ditch a little bit and then go down into this next ditch and then do the throw. So based on how far you are to the right is how much you'll have to turn when you're like in the second ditch. But yeah, you'll use like how much in the first ditch you are to like understand how far to the left or right you are. Hopefully that makes sense. So you don't want to be too far to the left. Like if you go too much in this ditch and then do it, it's like not optimal. So from what I understand at least. So in Woda's tutorial, he's saying like here-ish to like up to here. So my run ends up going like pretty much to the like point of like too far to the right, I think would probably be bad. I'm like very on the edge on the right side, which is not very comparable to most of the other runs, but ended up being okay. So, but yeah, most runs come like here, which would be a good way to picture it. But you're going to be setting your lineup, or sorry, you're going to be getting ready for your lineup. So if you're to the left, you're going to be going in the first ditch a little bit. Now we're going down into the second ditch. And maybe let me show a different run, because my run does something a little weird. So this is Wotus's run. So first ditch is right here. In, up, in the second ditch. Now he's gonna do his, get ready for his visual indicator for how he's gonna do the throw. So let me pull up Carl's run here. And just take note of where he is. He's a bit to the left, so in the first ditch, up into the second ditch. Now he's gonna turn to the right slightly, and he's going to use this mound here as the visual indicator. Shit.
I've hit the mark.
Oops. So like here. So when I was going for this, I was looking through runs and just trying to see what visual indicators people use. So this seems to be like the textbook one, and I think Irie uses this too. This is what this is. Let me slow this down. He had like the same amount of being, like he was to the left just like Carl and Irie were. But he goes a bit out of the second ditch before throwing. So his lineup is almost like the left of his screen is hitting that point. Before he looks up and throws. Yeah, so Irie's is similar to Carl's in terms of lineup. So it really just depends on where you are in the first and second ditch. How far to the left or right you are is what your lineup is going to be. So I found that if you're to the right more, you're turning a little bit more. And the more you are to the left, the less you are turning. So like if you're like literally at the very tippy top of this corner right here, then your lineup would be like this next, your visual indicator for how far you're supposed to turn would be like on the very left of your screen. And the further you are to the left, the more it will be like Carl's, where it's like this angle. This is, at least this is how I came to understand it. And obviously you're shooting for like trying to, you know, be consistent and like end up in the same place every time, so you don't have to like change your like how far you're gonna turn, but like you'll just have, it's hard to like be, I don't know if it's, well, it's hard, I don't know if it's hard, but like some runs you're just gonna end up to the left or to the right like more than you expected, so you just have to adjust your visual lineup for how far you're supposed to turn accordingly. And yeah, so I won't go over how to do an Arlene. I mean, essentially you're in right strafe. Oh, so maybe I am, but not as in detail. But you're in right strafe, and you turn to your, you know, visual indicator, and then you crank. You look straight up. Once you get, no, you're straight up, you hit Z, then you hit left strafe right after to do the throw, and then you immediately look down and go into right strafe again. And how you do the timing is going to be, you know, it would be really beneficial to, you know, put on cheats and go in and practice the throw. So, because the timing is very specific and it's like right one after the other. And I never found that I got 100% consistent at the throw, even with like a bunch of hours. Like, so yeah, don't just get discouraged if you aren't having a ton of, luck with getting the perfect throws, but practice helps for sure. All right, let's watch Carl's throw in normal speed. Yeah, so you want to have the way really if you did it right is you'll see that like you'll see the mine on the screen for like a frame. And if you see the mine go, like you see it for a while going to the left here, that means you did it wrong. And another way you know you did it wrong is if you see it like go straight up above you. And I think it's possible to do the throw and not even see the mine. I feel like I had a few of those runs. So if you don't see the mine on your screen, at least like a little bit, don't assume that it's completely messed up. It might be that you did it wrong, but it's possible, I think, that you did it correctly. For 47, you don't have to absolutely like do the throw very, very quickly. I'm pretty sure Irie's music on. This is Irie's throw. This is Kratos' throw. This is JL's throw. So you do the throw, and I guess maybe I'll just explain what I did. And I don't know if anyone else actually did this, but essentially, I was finding that my runs were not getting 46, even with like pretty like decent endings. I had practiced a lot in the patch, but just couldn't. Like I got like two 46s like pretty randomly, and one of them was a 46 where I didn't get A. The first one, I just got an absolutely cooked ending and like the probably perfect door warp at the end. And the other one, I really wasn't. I don't even know what I did. So, so I decided I was just going to skip having like a visual indicator. Like I wasn't going to do the visual indicator, and I was going to just save time by looking up and turning, hoping I got like the perfect turning and hoping I turned enough. So, so I was essentially just using like knowing where I was in terms of how far I've run forward, and then hoping my turn was setting the perfect line for the throw. JL says it saves like 0.1 seconds. So I'm looking straight up, turning. Now I'm doing the throw. So, yeah. So if you get enough time in this and you want to save the time, you can maybe YOLO it. I'm probably not going to suggest either way. I was just getting pretty frustrated. I wasn't pacing, so. And when this did complete, I was like surprised and like laughing a little bit because it is kind of a fucking Hail Mary. So on some runs, you'll see like this, like just barely pops up on screen. And it'll just pop up and then it'll be done. In mine, you'll see it drag down a little bit because I'm still holding R and I'm going to like look down as soon as possible. Yeah. In terms of timing for when you detonate it, essentially, I do the throw, it'll pull out your gun next, and you immediately switch back. So you would be detonating it on the cadence. So it's like switch, switch, and then you would assume you detonated like the same amount of time it took from your mine to switch to your gun. But instead, you're gonna wait like a split second after. So it's like switch, switch, detonate. And it might just be easier for you to listen to the timing. And you can listen to multiple people's runs too for timing. So it looks like Kratos doesn't even switch to the gun. He switches right back to this and then times it in his head, I guess. And if I'm not mistaken, you can also use a visual on the ground as well. So see how it gets like bright? Let me back up. There's like a bright line on the ground. It's getting brighter. And you see there's like a line. So I think that's what Kratos is using. See what JL does. Yeah, so he doesn't even use the gun either. He sees that little line on the ground. I'm assuming that, or he's counting in his head, but either way, whatever works for you. And I found that I was detonating more often than not too early rather than too late. So you really want to hold yourself back and not detonate too early. It's later than you think it should be, essentially. And in terms of like fixing your, essentially what you want to do is you want to do runs, and when you do hit, you hit a good R-lean throw. Obviously you need to get good at the end, but let's say you like don't hit the snowbank thing or whatever. What I would do is I would make sure I had noted where I was and how far I turned for the throw. So instead of completing the level or quitting out, I would go and I would check where the grenade landed and try to adjust accordingly. That can help you with how far you need to turn and your timing of your nade. Because you'll find sometimes that your nade was going like perfectly to the comms, but it exploded in the air before it got into the building. So in that case, you detonated too early. And sometimes the nade will just like you won't even know where the fuck it landed. Like you'll have no idea. But usually you can figure out like you'll see the smoke. And then yeah, adjust accordingly. So after you do the throw, you want to immediately start looking. You want to look down. Obviously, you want to be timing out the detonation, and you also want to be setting your line for the ending. So what I would do is like, based on where you were when you did the throw and how far you turned will depend on how you need to turn to set your final line, which sounds kind of confusing, but it kind of is just like a feel thing for where you are on the map and how far hard you need to turn. So like when you're first practicing it, like just take note of like how much you turned for the throw, and then just immediately look down and take the same line and take note of where it led you, so that you'll know, okay, next time if I turn this much for the throw, when I look down, I need to adjust like this much to the left or right. That was my thinking, at least. So now for my visual indicator, I'm looking for, it might be hard to see, but like this little like jutting out of the snowbank. There's two of them because this is the door right here. So this juts out and this juts out. What this is run is kind of hard to see. So yeah, this is jail. So that little thing is jutting out right here. And Carl's looking a bit down in his, so he probably got a pretty good feel for where his line would lead him. I found that I just found it helpful to be looking a little bit more up so I could figure out where I was. So, okay. So you're coming up to the door soon. You're looking for the visual indicators. And what I found and what they use in the ROM and what is in most runs, like this is the optimal place you want to be for the door hit. And like every run gets here, but it's not like a given that once you do the throw and get over here that you'll be in the right spot. So this is something you do have to learn. And if you're using the practice ROM, then it'll put you like right where you need to be. But getting here is not a given for sure. Like you'll need to learn how much you need to turn and how much you need to adjust based on what you see. Try to see if I can get a good visual indicator. Yeah. You can't you can't really see it based on here, but so this is a snowbank and there's one here too. You'll see that in this ridge, there's a point here and there's a point here. You can't really see it on my screen or on any of these screens because like the very edge of the point is like where you line up the right of your screen so that you don't so yeah, so this will be on your screen and like this will just be off your screen. Like just off the screen, there's like a little, this ridge cuts in and you want to have that like just off your screen. So it's like right here is like this corner. You can't really see it, or you can't see it on my screen here. Okay, so so for the snowbank, there is a video by JD Black that uh, I would look at for this. On the forums that I'll also link. But what you want to do is you want to come here and practice. You want to put like cheats on, so like invisible and slow animation for the guards. And you'll shoot out an outline and then you'll practice. You'll know where you need to press B. But once you do that, it really is just practicing getting consistent with the snow, with opening the door. So you're going off the ledge, and then you're gonna be, there's like a corner here. You're going like in, you're like bouncing off of this mound of snow. And you're pressing B like after you initially hit. But yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll link that tutorial. So you'll have that. And what I thought was the hardest part was going to be the doing the snowbank part, since it's like what you add from 47 to 46, but I don't think it's the hardest part, or it's not the most crucial part. Obviously, you need to get it, so you have to practice until you get pretty consistent. Like, you really want to be hitting it like more than half the time, and the more you do it, the more you'll get consistent. Like, by the end of this, I was hitting it like 80% of the time. So you might have some runs where you hit the A, you complete A, but like when you see that pop up, nerves kind of hit you, and it's kind of hard to clutch it. So, or it can be hard. So press it, and then as soon as you press B, you're gonna hit a right, you're gonna turn right pretty early. because if you don't, you're going to get stuck here. Now, where I think this is like the hardest part, at least for me, for getting from 47 to 46, is like how you get around here and through the door can save you. Like, you can lose a lot of time. Like, if you go too wide here, you can lose like half a second. So you hit B and then like immediately you're jutting out. Let me put this in slow-mo. Now you're gonna go into left strafe and turn like as sharp as you can. And you'll have to figure out like how early or late you can, or how early you can do it without getting stuck on here, which is also, the ROM is really helpful for that. And like, I know you're moving, like you're moving this way in right strafe, but like by the time you get to here, you want to be pressing left strafe. Like left strafe now, so by the time it like actually goes more to the left, you'll be around this corner, but you won't be like taking the turn really wide. Because again, you can lose a lot. At least I lost a lot of time. Like most of my time on this part, the turn and the warp. And as you can see, like it, well, I forgot to mention, you play this on either NTSC or Japanese. It doesn't look like anyone has gotten a 46 with POW. So, but yeah, so as you can see, like it looks a little bit different. This turnaround here is mostly the same on like every run. A little bit of difference, and then there's like a lot of difference on what people do for this warp here. Like on JL's run, you can like barely see this door here. You can definitely see more of it on WOTAs. You can see like most of it on Carl's. Yeah, so I didn't really find like my consistent way for warping the door. What you can do is you can do mine to unarmed, or you can do unarmed to PP7. But if you do PP7 to mine, it really does not work. So I do mine to unarmed here. In terms of when you're pressing A, I'm like pressing A here. This also seems like something that differs. I guess you can't tell here. So when you Press A can really differ. Again, I'm doing it like here, but it seems like actually that's about, yeah, when most people do, I think. It also differs on how far you look up. I think looking straight down didn't help me. Looking straight down didn't help me. And I also found that, like, when I watched like Carl and Irie's runs, they were having like the door on their screen, so which means I think they turned like a bit sharper. Um, so for me, that's what worked for that's what worked when I did it. But you can see like on JL's, like he's barely with the door here, and he like rubs up against here for the warp. But I think the way like Carl does it is what I found to be the best. But again, you can practice and see what you like. Like this amount of look down or like look up, or even like horizontal, or even like a little bit up, I think was like the best. And I'm not sure if the warp is better if you don't touch your stick, or if you like kind of shimmy warp your way, if that makes sense. Like one door where I feel like you shimmy warp is on facility agent, or just facility, like that, the sliding door. Is it the first one? Yeah, I guess it's like the first sliding door that you go through, that you open. You can like kind of crank your stick to the what strafe are you in? I can't remember, but yeah, you're like kind of turning your stick while you're warping, like shimming your way. I'm not sure if that's better here, or if just hitting A and hoping your line is like straight in to get the warp. And ultimately, it might be just up to like what the game fucking gives you. Like I feel like I was doing my warps pretty consistent, and or like in terms of what I would input, and sometimes I would just get fucked by the warp and it just wouldn't really work. So yeah, I think that's it. What? How far? 49 minutes. How did I talk for this long? Jesus Christ. All right, let's watch it one more time. So we're on NTSC. I played on J and I played on NTSC, and I didn't really see a difference. Cut the first cutscene. You can cut the second one if you want, but I usually watch it out. Parallel to this wall right here. This dot is your indicator. If it's on the left of your screen, it means you're on the right, you're a bit to the right of the hut. It's over here, you're gonna be like right up against the hut. Your visual indicator is usually just gonna be like this mine on this corner, but my run is not, does not do that. How far to the top of this peak is like how far you're gonna have to turn for your throw. Most of the time, like this is what people do, is this line. I'm a bit too
to the right of this peak here. I'm like just on the peak. And you want to go into the ditch. Yeah, my throw is pretty YOLO. Yeah. Do the throw, look down, and you're going to be doing your timing. Detonate. Now you want to be looking for your visual indicator for your next line. So I see this snowbank here, and I know this corner is right off the screen. You're going, jumping off this onto the snow mound, hitting it, and like as you're bouncing off, pressing B, melee turning right, and you're pressing left strafe like earlier than you would think, like here pretty much, left strafe. Around the corner, pressing A like here-ish, and hoping you get the word. All right, I think that's it. Yeah, feel free to hit me up in Discord.